That was The Fire by The Roots. That is The Fire by The Roots, one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite songs, and a great song fitting for the intro of the Thomas Take. I love the lyrics of that song, and it's just a great song. Thank you guys for joining me. This is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'm Ryan Thomas, your host. Once again, bringing you another edition of the Thomas Take, all things Buffalo Bills, as we are counting down the days, hours, minutes, and seconds until the NFL Draft, but a lot of news at One Bills Drive pertaining to the Buffalo Bills in 2017. One of the key features of that news is Reggie Ragland, the second-round draft choice for the Buffalo Bills in last year's draft, heading over to middle linebacker, as in his rookie season under the Rex Ryan 3-4 defense, he would have been playing outside linebacker. Now that Sean McDermott is in the building, Reggie is moving to middle. My thoughts on that and much more in this edition of the Thomas Take. I was thrilled. Let me start off by saying I was thrilled at last year's draft, and this is coming from a guy that is not the biggest Doug Whaley fan. Shaq Lawson and Reggie Ragland going into the draft were projected to be top 20 NFL draft prospects. And Reggie Ragland was taken in the second round. Actually, Buffalo traded up into the second round, taking him with the 10th overall pick in the second round of last year's draft, 41st overall. And Shaq Lawson going at the Bills selection at 19. So the Bills stayed where they were supposed to pick in the first round of last year's draft, but they traded up in the second round. A theme that we could see possibly, depending on who's available, once again in the 2017 draft, which is April 27th in Philadelphia. But with all the things that Sean McDermott said about the team, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later, what I really liked was his thoughts on Reggie Ragland. I agree with him 100% that Reggie Ragland can be that linchpin type player in a defense. He can be a Luke Kuechly-like difference maker. We're talking about a guy that was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year during his senior season. And I have in front of me here a scouting report, a draft profile, if you will, on Reggie Ragland. Written by Lance Zierlein of NFL.com. I love Lance's writing. I love the way he writes about players, good and bad. And I've had this scouting report on Reggie Ragland for quite some time. If you wanted to go back on YouTube, type in the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I wanted Reggie Ragland so bad for last year's draft in the first round, and the fact that the Bills were able to get him and Shaq Lawson last year, I think is a real advantage heading into the 2017 season. We'll have Shaq healthy, we'll have Reggie healthy. That's going to be a big boost for this Buffalo Bills defense. Lance wrote, the question heading into Ragland's senior season wasn't whether he would be a solid run stuffer as a starting 3-4 inside linebacker in the NFL. As his play the past two falls secured that notion. He earned a spot as an elite prospect, though, with his play in 2015. He led the Tide with 97 tackles, 6.5 for loss, broke up 6 passes, winning SEC Defensive Player of the Year, as I mentioned before. Numerous All-American honors and landing finalist spots for multiple national awards. In fact, Ragland was the third Alabama player to earn unanimous All-American notice, joining Cornelius Bennett, the former Buffalo Bill, the Biscuit, and All-Pro Derek Thomas. Ragland could have left for the NFL last year, but decided to come back to win a championship, get his degree, and continue his work in the community. A great guy, great character guy. He took the injury very well, considering that he knew that he was going to miss the, majority, what ended up being all of his 2016 rookie season. Took his lumps like a champ. Showed up to training camp. Was a team guy throughout all that process. I was there. I saw him kind of interact with the coaches. I saw him help out the players. A real team player, and I think that this guy is the perfect guy to be your middle linebacker in a 4-3 defense. Now, the notion that Reggie will be their middle linebacker over Preston Brown is interesting, and I'm not saying it's a bad decision. I'm saying it's interesting in the fact that Preston Brown has been their starting middle linebacker for the last 2 seasons under the 3-4 defense with Rex Ryan. under the 3-4 defense, we had Brown at middle. Now we're shifting to the 4-3. We're putting Ragland there. So the personnel, that just further proves the fact that the personnel did not fit that 3-4 defense. It was a complete mismatch, Rex Ryan's defense with our personnel here at One Bills Drive. And it's a better fit moving forward for the Buffalo Bills to have a 4-3 defense with Sean McDermott as opposed to the 3-4 with Rex Ryan. The moving parts just did not match. It was like fitting a square peg in a round hole. It just did not fit, and it was the right decision. Now, Ragland is a guy that is obviously behind on things, knowing that he is now, knowing that he is a rookie in his second year, knowing that he missed his, original rookie year. He is somewhat behind, but one thing that he's got working for him is that the Buffalo Bills changed coaches. So I'm very excited to see how he handles this role. I think it's a great fit for the Bills' 4-3 defense. And I wanted to rattle off some strengths that were written by Lance Zierlein in this scouting report, just to give you guys a clear, concise reading as to why Reggie is the player that he is. His strengths, he's an old-school, take-on middle linebacker who plays the game the way Nick Saban liked. Steps into holes and will swap paint with lead blockers in order to constrict his gap. Instinctive linebacker who trusts his eyes and goes. Showed greater understanding of angles and leverage this year. Won't overcommit when flowing to the ball carrier. And almost always finds his run fits. Missed tackles fell from 10 in 2014 to just 3 this season. Played with hand and ground as an edge rusher in some sub packages. Showed great willingness to take chances downhill. Nasty hitter with above average play strength. That to me screams like a linchpin 4-3 middle linebacker. Weaknesses, some scouts question his play speed. He did run a 4.7 40. Can be inconsistent with his angles when playing downhill. Could get himself into trouble miscalculating NFL speed of the perimeter. Will get locked up more often by pro linemen if he tries to take on all blocks rather than punch and shed. Alabama's outstanding defensive front allowed him to roam unblocked for much of the year. Can handle himself in zone coverage, but man coverage skills are limited. He was projected as a round 1 player. There was the aorta issue heading into last year's draft that I think caused his stock to fall just a little bit. Sources tell us, according to NFL.com, Lance Zierlein, he's a throwback linebacker, but he's going to get drafted in the first round because he has rush ability too. Bottom line was thumping inside linebacker with throwback size and tone-setting mentality. Ragland is a confident and capable early starter in the league who has the temperament to become one of the premier run-stopping inside linebackers in the pro game. Ragland has some coverage and speed limitations, but his instincts and overall awareness should be able to mask those issues. And then the related links of actually this page were Ragland flagged with enlarged aorta, and really that did cause his draft stock to fall. So over the course of now up until the draft, I think Sean McDermott is kind of trimming the fat of the defense, trying to find out who fits this 4-3, who fits the mentality that the Buffalo Bills want to carry into the 2017 season. And Reggie Ragland is one of those guys that you knew he was going to have a starting role. We just didn't know where he would start. Would it be inside? Would it be in the middle? Would it be on the outside? Very interesting stuff. To see a new coach come in and speak about this roster in a way that lets the fans know that there is a plan, there is a voice, there is a progression towards the draft, towards OTAs, towards mini camp, training camp, preseason, and then into the regular season. There is a plan moving forward, and in the coming weeks, we're going to find out what exactly that plan is with their first round draft choice, 10th overall, and it'll be very interesting. I think if I was a betting man that they would go defense due to the fact that Sean McDermott seems to really have his fingerprints on this team. having more of a speaking role in comparison to Doug Whaley. And McDermott's first guy that he mentions, besides Tyrod Taylor, on the defensive side of the ball, the first player that he mentions is Reggie Ragland. So that kind of lets me know that Reggie will be just fine. His torn knee last year did hurt us. It would have been really nice to see him in NFL action for his actual rookie season, but I think he's going to have a fantastic year in this 4-3. I like him a lot. I like his attitude towards the game. Even in the toughest circumstances in which he blew out his ACL, he was still around the building. He was still a team guy. He still showed that, hey, I want to learn. I want to be a part of this team, and continue, moving forward with this injury, get through it, get past it, and then carry on to 2017. And 2017, he's going to have a huge spotlight on him, but I think he's going to really shine under those bright lights on the NFL stage. I expect Sean McDermott, to really give his ideology towards this defense. The ideas will be flowing from now until the draft. I don't think he's going to give too many things away heading into the draft, but I like the fact that Ragland was the first guy that comes to mind when Sean McDermott was addressed about the current roster after the Tyrod Taylor contract situation. So as of now, McDermott sees Ragland as the linchpin of the defense. As of now, he sees Tyrod as the linchpin quarterback of the offense. We're getting more clarity. We're not dealing with a coach that cares more about bravado and his marketability. We're dealing with a coach that has his fingerprints on the X's and O's, the personnel. He is more of a, for the lack of a better term, he takes things seriously. He actually takes things seriously. And I like that about Sean McDermott so far. I'm enamored with the guy, and I like the fact that he zeroed in on Reggie Ragland as the guy to be the linchpin player of this defense. We're talking about a guy that was supposed to be a first-round pick, wasn't a first-round pick, that fell to us, that we went up and got. We have to get a clear-cut result from that, putting him in a position that is a prime position on the defensive side of the ball at middle linebacker. I think Ragland is going to do just fine. And we know that we got another guy on the defensive side of the ball that we didn't get to see in his full entirety, and that's Shaq Lawson. Between Ragland and Lawson, I think those two guys are going to be big time for this Buffalo Bills defense. Two guys that SEC, ACC Players of the Year in college, and two guys that had injuries in college that weathered the storm, a guy that had an injury in the pros and weathered the storm, both of them. And I like that. I like that heading into the 2017 season. They're kind of sleeping on Shaq and Reggie, and I think that they are going to do wonderful things for the Buffalo Bills. That was the Thomas Take. The Buffalo Bills are deciding to switch Reggie Ragland to the middle linebacker position. If you want to know where you can find me on Twitter at Thomas Takeover. You can find me on Facebook by searching the Thomas Take Sports Podcast in the search bar. Like the page. I'm always posting stuff throughout the day, each and every day. Buffalo Bills-oriented, sports-oriented, you name it. If I think it's worth covering, I cover it. You can also check out every episode of the Thomas Take on YouTube by searching the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Subscribe to the channel, and I would really appreciate it. And interact with me. You can send me an email. Ask me about any sports-related topic. I will answer your question live on the air on Tuesdays. That's my Tuesday mailbag show, Thomas Take Tuesday mailbag show. I will answer your questions live on the air and give you the Thomas Take. Thank you for tuning in.